Hello everyone, today I will bring you a thrilling and captivating story of a high school girl who recently skipped meals to read a novel about a murderous duke. This duke killed Lady Regina to cover up his tracks. Ironically, through some magical means, the high school girl was able to enter the story, taking on the role of Regina and facing the killer. She constantly lived in fear of being eliminated, just like in the original story. But strangely, the duke not only didn't kill her but also gave her expensive gifts. Even more shocking, he confessed his love to her and insisted on marrying her. Where will this forbidden love lead? Does the duke truly love Regina, or is it just a trap? Will this high school girl be able to change the storyline? Let's find out together. On a moonless and starless night, at the edge of the forest, a meeting took place between the handsome prince and the beautiful lady. For some reason, the lady looked terrified, her whole body trembling. Her heart was racing. She thought to herself, Asin Leroy, the Duke of Didon, is someone everyone wants to be close to, but he's also someone I don't want to be involved with. Not even for a second. The young lady, from the Loy family, whose full name is Regina Loy, saw Asin searching for something in his pocket. Regina wondered, what is he taking out? Is it a dagger or a poison needle? Whatever it is, I'm definitely dead. No matter how much I struggle, apart from possessing Regina's body. A loud noise made her close her eyes in fear. Could it be that I can't escape the predetermined ending? Oh, the surprise! The reality was far from what Regina imagined. What Asin took out was a sparkling diamond ring. He proposed, "Marry me." What a romantic proposal! His actions were completely unexpected. Regina's cheeks flushed with embarrassment. It turned out that everything that just happened was a scene from Isota's forbidden book. This was the last novel the female lead read before falling asleep. It began with the death of a character. To summarize the novel, Regina was an ordinary noble lady, even extremely ordinary. She was Isota's best and most trusted friend. One night, while taking a walk, Regina accidentally witnessed a murder. The criminal was a prominent figure in high society and also the emperor's half-brother, Duke Asin Leroy. With immense power and a handsome face, he could be considered the ultimate male supporting character. However, he had a weakness, his mind wasn't quite right. He had killed countless people on the emperor's orders, and he also eliminated Regina because she had witnessed that day's events. It's unclear why, but wanting what she wanted, Regina threatened him. And in the end, she couldn't escape and died at Asin's hands. Isota, who deeply cherished Regina, investigated her death herself and became entangled in a love triangle between the male lead, Emperor Ruli, and the villainous male supporting character, Asin. Our female lead had read the novel up to that point. She pondered, but a novel is a novel. I haven't seen that murder yet. I haven't even spoken a word to Asin. At this point, our high school female lead, through some miracle, had stepped into the story and become Lady Regina. Looking at her expression, it seemed she had a lot on her mind. So, the question is, what should I, the one who has possessed Regina, do? Of course, I have to silently stay away from him. She was determined, don't let myself see that murder. But while taking a shortcut home, she witnessed the murder from the original story. Regina hid behind the wall in fear and overheard Asin's entire conversation. So when I warned you, and you stopped, that wasn't enough? Since you've ignored my warning a second time, don't resent me, Viscount Durang. She suddenly remembered Viscount Durang. She had heard this name in the original story. This was the murder that Regina Loy witnessed in the original story, the event that kicked off the main plot. Regina tried not to make a sound. If I'm discovered here, will I end up the same way? She walked slowly, step by step. When the opportunity arose, she closed her eyes and ran, screaming in her heart, "Save me." Asin Leroy seemed to have noticed something unusual. He smirked, the savage smile of a murderer. Back home, Regina was always gloomy and listless. Sally, the maid, was so worried she was on the verge of tears. "What's wrong, miss?" Regina forced a smile and replied, "Oh, it's nothing." But in reality, her heart was heavy with worries. What if I follow the same path as in the original story? My end will be death. And Asin doesn't let witnesses live. She turned to the maid. "Sally, bring me the invitations I've received." The maid hurried off immediately. "This one is for an event this week, this one is an invitation to a party a few weeks from now, and these are mostly from families." Regina fell into deep thought. Decline all the parties that I can skip for now. I have to take cover for a while. After some deliberation, she told Sally, decline them all for me. Destroy all the invitations. The maid quickly took all the invitations away to dispose of them. Yes, Mississippi Regina sat there, sighing. Forget it. Who else witnessed that besides me? If I stay quiet like this, no one will know anything. The storyline probably won't be affected if a supporting character like me disappears, right? She chuckled. Oh, really? She lay down on the bed, reassuring herself. That's right. He lives his life, and I live mine. At a party gathering the most prominent young ladies and counts, everyone was whispering. Have you heard? This Count Durang has been murdered. Those words reached Regina's ears, causing her eyes to widen in surprise. In her heart, she kept repeating, no, it's okay. It's different from the original. I haven't been involved with the scene yet. Isoda worriedly grasped her hand and asked, Regina, you look terrible. Are you okay? She just smiled and said, yeah, I'm fine. Suddenly, a voice called out from afar, greetings, Lady Loy. Regina quickly turned around. This voice is. It was none other than Asin. She wondered, why is Asin talking to me? He gave her a friendly smile. Regina hesitantly asked, greetings, but is there something you need from me? Asin spoke cryptically, I'm curious if you made it home safely that day. She feigned ignorance and asked, what are you talking about? That day? Are you mistaking me for someone else? I don't recall ever meeting you, Your Grace. He wasn't one to back down and quickly replied, I heard that once you see the lady's black hair, you can never forget it. It's truly the case. Her whole body trembled. Thank you. It's an honor for my entire family to receive such praise from Your Grace, but that person really wasn't me. I've just recovered from an illness, so I'm feeling a bit dizzy. I apologize, but may I excuse myself? Seeing this, Asin had to say, so I've kept a sick person waiting for too long. Of course. With his consent, Isoda quickly helped her turn back. Before leaving, she politely said, then, I'll take my leave. He smiled again and replied, yes, see you later. Isoda led Regina away from the party. On the way, she curiously asked, what's your relationship with him? Regina smiled and explained, there's no relationship. It was truly a mistake. Her face was clearly melancholic. Please, take me to the restroom. Isoda asked anxiously, do you need me to stay with you? She replied in a tired voice, no, no need. Finally, they reached the room. Isoda gently helped her sit down on a chair. Seeing her concern, she softly said a few words to reassure her. Sorry for dragging you here. I'll be back soon. Isoda confirmed once more, are you sure you're okay? Regina gave a weak smile and replied, yeah. Like a fussy mother, she gave her instructions. All right then, if anything happens, ring the bell for the servants immediately. She smiled and replied, I know. In her mind, she couldn't stop thinking about that fateful night. Did he really see me? Countess Loy is truly a very ordinary noble. If there's anything special about me, it's my black hair, as Asin mentioned earlier. Or maybe it's my admired brother, Eken? And like Asin, Count Loy is on the Emperor's side, so he doesn't need to approach me for political gain. She cried out in fear. So, does he really intend to kill me? Anyway, I have to go home. She hurriedly ran out of the room. Tell the host that I'm feeling unwell and I'm going home. Footsteps echoed throughout the corridor. A voice made her freeze. This Count Durang is dead. At that time, I also saw a back like this. Asin suddenly appeared and said those words, making Regina extremely frightened. Her face turned pale as she stammered, I. He smirked again. Her heart pounded like it wanted to jump out of her chest. Duke Asin approached and said, you haven't changed at all, my lady. A romantic starry night sky appeared through the window. Conversely, inside, the atmosphere was extremely tense. Asin stared at Regina, making her so scared she didn't dare blink. Regina trembled and said, I don't understand what you're saying. The wind is starting to get cold. I'll excuse myself and return to my room. As soon as she finished speaking, she hurriedly left. He remained still, staring at her retreating figure. The fear from earlier still lingered deep within Regina's mind. Isoda called out in surprise, Regina? She ran over and exclaimed, you look even paler than before. She gave a weak smile and said, Isoda, I think I have to go home now. The gossip of the others reached Regina's ears once again. But on that night, I heard someone saw Duke Leroy nearby. Those words were like a bolt of lightning to her. Seeing her standing still like a mannequin, Isoda cried out in alarm, Regina. Many shocking secrets were revealed. Actually, Duke Leroy is a loyal subject of His Majesty the Emperor. Viscount Durang is on Marquis Ruthio's side. Regina began to deduce from the information she had heard. Marquis Ruthio's family is the family of the imperial consort, the late emperor's concubine. Empress Dowager Alicia Ruthio is the one who gave birth to the third prince, the half-brother of Asin and Ruli. Although she tried to put the third prince on the throne, she failed. And in the end, the crown prince at the time, Ruli, became the emperor. However, she hasn't given up and still harbors dreams of rebellion. To prevent that, Asin has been interacting with someone codenamed Purge. And of course, I know these things because it's the content of the novel I read. However, where did the rumor about seeing Duke Leroy come from? Could it be that he misunderstood and thinks I spread the rumor? Suddenly, she said, I also saw Duke Leroy that day. He went into the jewelry store. Everyone was surprised when they heard that. They stared at her and started murmuring. At this point, Regina realized in a panic, damn it. I clearly said I didn't see him earlier. A curious young lady came up to her and asked, a jewelry store? Having already spoken, Regina had to make up a story. Yes, because that day I had a few things I wanted to look at. So I was nearby. I saw him pass by from afar. I don't know what he was choosing, but it was a long time before I saw him come out. When we go into clothing or jewelry stores, we often look at this and that without realizing how much time has passed, right? Those present were convinced by her words. That's true. If I went into a jewelry store, I might spend half a day there. Regina continued, furthermore, I heard that Viscount Durang died in the evening. At that time, the Duke must have still been in the jewelry store. There were still many doubts in her heart. I don't understand why the news saying that Viscount Durang died in the evening is being circulated. But the truth is, it should have been late at night, close to midnight. Using the wrong time to create an alibi for a scene, that's all I can do. A few seconds later, she turned to her close friend. Isoda, I'm going home now. Sorry. He worriedly advised her, it's okay. Go home and rest quickly. Remember to take your medicine too. She smiled and replied, yeah. Then she quickly left the party. After that incident, I declined all invitations and confined myself at home. Because I was worried I'd be silenced if I went outside. Actually, if Asin was determined to kill me, it would be very easy for him to break into the mansion. Day after day, Regina became more and more gaunt. What day is it that I haven't been able to leave the house? Should I go find him and beg for my life? Tell him that I absolutely won't tell anyone. So please spare me. No, in movies, those who beg for their lives all end up dead. Sally, the maid, stood outside, bewildered, not understanding what was wrong with her mistress and why her mood was constantly changing. She didn't even want to eat at mealtimes. A gloomy atmosphere always clung to her. Her family was extremely worried. Regina's mother asked, Regina, why haven't I seen you go out lately? Going out for some sun or attending parties would be good for you. She made up an excuse. I just find parties a bit boring. I prefer staying home and reading. Her father unexpectedly took out 2 opera tickets and gave them to her. How about going to see the opera? I heard there's a famous play showing these days. You can go with Ekin or Lady Rose. The Marquis's daughter. That wouldn't be bad either. She held the tickets, but didn't feel any excitement. What should I do? I can't stay inside forever. My parents are worried about me. It would be better if I went. Finally, she decided to go. Inside the opera house, it was packed with attendees. However, Regina couldn't shake her fear and kept looking left and right to see if anyone was following her. Isoda whispered, are you feeling better? I heard you haven't stepped outside for a while. She smiled and replied, yeah, I'm fine. He suddenly mentioned Kai. Oh, right. Kai complained to me. Regina's eyes widened in surprise. Kai? Isoda rose and I are very close to Kai Velat. We became close after I entered Regina's body. Isoda recounted, he said you declined parties and didn't even reply to his invitation. As expected, your best friend is me, right? She replied, "Oh, really? I'll contact him when I get home." The light suddenly went out. Isoda became very excited. "It's starting." The artists took turns performing under the stage lights. Isoda watched intently with bright eyes, while Regina seemed much more listless. The audience applauded. Regina stood up and said, "I'm going to the restroom for a bit." She dejectedly left the room. After just a few steps, someone appeared and blocked her way. A familiar voice said, "We meet again, Lady Loy." She shivered, her face turning pale. Asin appeared with his trademark smile. She looked at him anxiously. He also looked back at her with a passionate gaze. Regina politely said, "Hello, Duke Leroy." She reassured herself, "There are a lot of people here. He won't harm me. I have to act like nothing's wrong." He kept looking at her and smiled, perhaps with hidden meaning. In her mind, she imagined a scene of Asin the tiger always lurking around Regina, the fawn. Just thinking about it made her break out in a cold sweat. This is clearly a threatening stare. Asin leaned closer and asked, "You're not planning to run away again today, are you?" She turned on her acting mode and innocently replied, "Run away? Did someone leave your grace and run away?" "That day, I wasn't feeling well, so I was a bit rude." He asked with concern, "Are you feeling better now?" Regina smiled and replied, "Of course. I'm feeling better, that's why I came to see the opera." "Thank you for your concern. Then I'll excuse myself." She gently turned and left. Suddenly, Asin grabbed her hand. She froze for a few seconds. Then she came to her senses and quickly withdrew her hand. He informed her, "I have a gift I want to give you." Regina asked in surprise, "A gift?" Asin said, "It will be sent to Count Loy's house soon." Hearing that she would receive a gift, she burst into tears and complained, "Why is he treating me like this?" A few days later, someone stood outside and called in, "Miss, Duke Leroy has sent a gift." She slowly walked down the stairs. "A gift from Duke Leroy?" The Duke's attendant politely bowed to her. He even handed her the gift personally. "Yes, this is the gift the Duke sent for you, miss." Holding the gift, Regina hesitated slightly, while Sally, the maid standing behind her, was even more excited than her mistress. She decided to open it and see. Inside was a small red box that looked quite expensive. Regina tremblingly opened it. She looked at the gift with a shocked expression. "This? A sparkling diamond necklace." Asin's attendant added, "The Duke also sent this letter with it." She was surprised. A letter? Holding the letter, she pursed her lips to suppress her fear. Inside the letter, he wrote, "At the next party, I want to see you wearing this necklace. Signed, Asin." Regina pondered, if a young lady received a letter like this from Duke Leroy. She would usually think something like this: a refined and elegant gentleman said, "Could you wear the necklace I gave you at the next party? But I only feel this, a murderer with threatening words, if you don't wear this necklace at the next party, I can't guarantee you'll see tomorrow." Her face became gloomy. Why did he send me this necklace? Her brother suddenly walked in and saw her unhappy expression. He immediately asked, "What's wrong, Regina? Is something the matter?" She was startled by her brother's appearance. "Brother? It's nothing special." Her brother saw the gift she was holding. "Who sent that you look like that?" She stammered, "Duke Leroy." Her brother was extremely puzzled. "What? Duke Leroy? Why did he send you this? And it's nothing special?" Regina kept denying it. "No, it's nothing." He gently said to her, "If there's something wrong, just tell me. I'll help you. We're family. We can share our concerns with each other." Regina stood still, sniffling without saying a word. After a few seconds, she regained her composure and said with a forced smile, "Thank you, brother, but there's really nothing." Her brother still felt uneasy. "If you say so, then that's good, but..." She made an excuse to avoid the topic. "I told you it's nothing. Let's go eat." After saying that, she quickly left, leaving her brother with a bewildered expression. Back in her room, she closed the door tightly and sighed wearily. "I'm sorry, brother. I don't want to drag our family into this." A pile of letters filled the table. Regina was surprised. "I've accumulated this much already? Did Sally set these aside for me?" "This is the invitation Isoda mentioned. He said he declined the invitation and didn't reply to the card. It's really worrying. I have to reply that I'll go. If I don't, he'll surely be disappointed. Even while writing the letter, she couldn't stop thinking about him. I also have to listen to a scene. In an instant, she regained her spirit. Even so, there's also Isoda and Kai. If the three of us must go together, Asin won't have any other choice. The day of the party arrived. Isoda excitedly waved and called out, "Regina, over here." Kai sighed in relief. "I thought you wouldn't come." She smiled and replied, "Sorry, I had to decline another party invitation." Isoda chuckled and gossiped, "While you weren't here." He was grumbling again. He turned and asked embarrassedly, "When was I like that?" She imitated Kai, recounting, "I wonder if something happened to Regina. Will she come?" "You were so flustered." He quickly explained, "I was just worried." Isoda replied, Yeah, I'm sure you were." She stood outside, smiling as she watched the two of them tease each other. Suddenly, Isoda turned and asked, "By the way, Regina, that necklace is a bit different from your usual style. Are you trying to change your image?" She was so embarrassed she didn't know what to say. This. Hearing the whispers of the crowd, the three of them turned to look. Duke Asin appeared, radiating like an A-list star. Isoda's expression changed. "It's Duke Leroy." She simply replied, "Yes." He whispered in her ear, "I don't like him at all. Last time, he was also scrutinizing you." Asin was chatting cheerfully with everyone when he suddenly turned to look at her. Then he took the initiative to approach and greet her. "Hello, Lady Loy." She shyly replied, "Hello, Your Grace." He brought his face close to hers and said, "You wore the necklace, I see." After some thought, "I chose diamonds." Regina asked fearfully in her mind, "What's wrong with this person?" The young ladies who knew about it started gossiping. Did the Duke buy it from the jewelry store to give to that lady? Seeing everyone's eyes on her, she flinched in fear. She suddenly realized, could it be? At the party the other day, she had told everyone in front of them that the Duke was at the jewelry store. Was she used as an alibi witness? He knew everything she had said that day. Asin kept admiring it, "It's really beautiful." She avoided his gaze, but still replied, "Thank you." People continued to whisper about them. "I heard Duke Leroy gave a necklace to that lady." "Oh my God." Asin finally left. "Well then, I'll excuse myself to meet the Marquis and his wife." "Everyone, enjoy yourselves." Isoda curiously asked, "So, did Duke Leroy give you that necklace?" She breathed a sigh of relief and replied, "Yes." Both Kai and he were extremely surprised and questioned her, "What happened between you two? Clearly, until last time, you two had no relationship." She was confused and didn't know how to explain everything. "That," she said helplessly, "it's all messed up." Regina told them, "Actually, we didn't know each other. A few days ago, he sent me a letter telling me to definitely wear this necklace." Isoda screamed, "Why?" She could only reply, "To see I'm wondering too." Isoda excitedly said, "What?" "I also want to give Regina a necklace." Kai stood next to her without saying a word, only nodding in agreement. She laughed happily. But contrary to her outward appearance, she had a lot of worries in her heart. "I've even helped with the alibi. I guess I don't have anything else to do, right? Please, it would be great if it just ended like this." Did Latin hear my words too? If so, then I'm clearly receiving the bitter hatred from that god. Sunset also began to fall, and the carriage carrying Regina continued to run along the road. Sitting inside, she was like a lost soul. Because this is just the beginning, not the end. Although in the original story, the one who killed me was Asin, the one who instigated it was someone else. It was Emperor Ruli. To celebrate the emperor's birthday, a celebratory banquet was held in the royal palace, and that means today I've stepped into their home ground. She sighed, leaning against the railing outside the balcony. Although thankfully nothing special has happened so far. Do I have to live in this anxiety all my life? Her hairpin suddenly came undone. And fell into a nearby tree. Regina panicked, "My hair accessory." She looked around to see if anyone was nearby to help. How unlucky, there's no one. I have to pick it up immediately. She slowly climbed halfway over the balcony. Something rustled in the bushes, making her a little apprehensive. Huh? A cracking sound was heard, and her face was filled with fear. Because the railing was too slippery, Regina accidentally slipped. Because of that, she fell backwards. The rustling of leaves in the quiet night. Regina lay sprawled on the grass with a pained expression. She seemed to have seen something. A black cat was playing with her hairpin. So it's a cat. It held the hairpin in its mouth. And turned to leave, ignoring Regina's pleas. That's not edible. Give it back to me. Hey, that's mine. Give it back to me, kitty. Oh, hey. Because she was busy chasing after it, she suddenly realized, I think I've gone too far. Just a few seconds of distraction, and the black cat had disappeared. She looked around to find it. Kitty, where are you? Suddenly, there were footsteps approaching. She mustered up her courage and looked up to see. A person with a familiar face and hair appeared. Guess who it is? It's none other than Duke Asin. Regina once again fell into unease. Asin and the cat. He petted the cat and kept praising it, good job. Her hands and feet were trembling. Even if I run now, the cat will catch me. He called her name, Regina Loy. Then he reached into his pocket as if to take something out. Regina panicked, imagining all sorts of things. What is he going to take out? A sword or a gun? Whatever it is, I'm about to die. No matter how much I struggle, besides possessing Regina's body, can I escape the fate that has been arranged? Reflexively, she raised her hands to defend herself. Asin said, marry me. She slowly opened her eyes. Huh? What did you say? He smiled and replied, I said, marry me. Before her was the sight of the Duke with a shining proposal ring box. Her voice trembling, she asked, Your Grace, why? He honestly said, let's try love. My lady, he said, holding her small hands. When I killed that person, I knew you were here. Those words made everything inside her collapse. Anyway, this is better than dying. He put the ring on Regina's finger. And gave her a kiss. Let's get married. She asked, fearfully, wait, what will your grace gain by marrying me? He explained, I need someone to grasp public opinion in society. She tried to politely refuse, but we don't have to get married. Asin pulled her closer to him. And whispered in her ear, how can I be sure you won't run away? It just so happens I need someone for the position of mistress of the house. As soon as he finished speaking, he kissed her hair, an action that made her shiver. He said in a sweet voice, I love you. I'll try to arrange the wedding date as soon as possible. Isoda and Kai suddenly appeared behind them. They were extremely surprised by this shocking news. Marriage? Regina, you've been strange lately. Could it be? She gradually realized she was just an actress in the movie he directed. So he's putting on a show for these two to see. Asin smiled and said, your friend is here, so we'll see each other later. Oh, and one more thing. Be careful not to lose this again next time. At this point, she could only say 3 words, thank you. Isoda still couldn't believe it, clutching her hand and asking, what? When did you two start dating? Are you really getting married? Regina didn't know what to say, and could only reply, I guess so. Her friend Isoda burst into tears. What? Are you really going to marry that Duke? Kai looked around and said to everyone, let's go back first. Regina wondered, there won't be anything more surprising, right? Suddenly proposing marriage. When she returned to the party, she ran into Duke Asin again. Marrying Duke Asin Riroy. Isoda was so angry, she wanted to chew and swallow her handkerchief. Unacceptable. She fell into deep thought. Come to think of it, according to the original story, Asin and Isoda would be attracted to each other. And they would become a happy couple, blessed with their love. That's probably why Isoda is so upset and can't accept it. From these events, Regina could realize that this meant the original story had been disrupted. After Asin sent the marriage proposal, things proceeded very quickly because Count Loy had no animosity towards Duke Riroy, the emperor's younger brother. She had a conversation with her parents. I understand. Her face was tinged with sadness. On the contrary, her parents smiled happily. Think carefully and decide. Whether or not you get married is entirely your choice. Of course, it's because my parents trust me too much. Her mother suddenly asked, do you have any plans for when the ceremony will be? She became flustered by this question. After a moment, she forced a smile and replied, I was planning to go talk about it today. At Count Asin's luxurious and splendid castle. Regina whimpered, can't we have an engagement first? It's too sudden. He laughed bluntly and said, no. I'm telling you in advance, it's best not to think about running away. She quickly replied, I can't escape your grace's grasp. Suddenly, he changed his mind. So, let's have an engagement first, but on one condition. Regina's eyes widened. What condition? Duke Asin began to lay down some rules. During the engagement period, you must stay at Duke Riroy's house. Helplessly, she agreed. Yes, sir. He smiled with satisfaction. Let's call each other by our first names. You should call me Asin. Hearing this, she got goosebumps all over. Seeing her sitting motionless like a statue, he urged her, hurry up. Finally, she had to obey him. Asin. He smiled happily and replied, yes, Regina. You should get ready to come in. Her hand gripped her skirt to hide her fear. A moment later, Regina stepped out in a completely new outfit. The servants immediately bowed their heads and said in unison, greetings. Dressed in luxurious clothes, but there was no smile on her lips. In the original story, he was the villain who killed me, and now I'm at Asin Riroy's house. The inside of the castle was decorated with extremely intricate patterns. Even the bedroom was lavishly decorated. Regina's eyes widened in amazement. Is this my room? It's even better than my previous room. Her joy didn't last long as she returned to her gloomy expression. But I feel worried that the room next door is Asin's room. What does he want me to do? Whatever it is, first of all, don't go against Asin's temper. On the first day, she and he enjoyed afternoon tea together, the atmosphere unusually silent. On the second day, they strolled together in the castle grounds. Asin only smiled happily and didn't say a word. On the third day, they dined together. At this point, she was extremely curious. Huh? Why isn't he making me do anything? Just eating and drinking tea together? Luckily, I'm getting used to it, but... She was startled when he finally spoke. This Friday. Do you know there's going to be a party at Duke Alaran's house? She smiled and replied, yes, I know. He told her, you just need to attend the party with me. She obediently complied. I'll keep that in mind. She felt somewhat relieved. Finally, I've been assigned something to do. The silent atmosphere suddenly returned. Regina proactively asked, is there anything else you need me to do? He gently replied, this time, you just need to be obediently by my side. Her face sullen, she replied, yes. This seems a little hard to swallow. A few seconds later, he turned and said, this afternoon, the designer for the party outfit will be here. She said in surprise, yes? Asin stared at her without blinking. Regina. She tilted her head and made an innocent, loving expression at him. Finally, he concluded with, oh, it's nothing. She felt like crying. What? He's truly incomprehensible. One fine afternoon at Asin's castle. As promised, the designer arrived. It's an honor to meet you, my lady. I'm Malo, the one in charge of designing the outfits for this party. Regina smiled and said, then I'll leave it to you. She politely said, excuse me for a moment, my lady, and immediately began taking measurements with a tape measure, looking extremely professional. It's perfect. After it's sewn, I'll bring it for you to try on immediately. She laughed and replied, thank you. When everyone left, a tired expression was evident on her face. I don't know why I feel so stressed. I should take a break. She hadn't rested much when someone came looking for her. She quickly composed herself. Come in, come in. Her eyes widened in surprise. Huh? Asin walked in with a handsome expression. He chuckled and said, your expression is a bit much. You just had a what are you doing here look on your face. She hurriedly explained, I didn't. He sat down next to her and said, if that's not the case, then that's fortunate. I've tried to show you my friendly side, so I hope you won't run away from me. She turned her face away and asked, what are you talking about? Suddenly, he wrapped his arms around her waist and turned her towards him. He gently hugged and kissed her hair, making Regina blush. She stared at him with wide eyes. Asin said happily, that's right. Aren't we about to get married because of love at first sight? Designer Malo opened the door and announced, first, the sample outfit. She was startled to see them being affectionate. Good heavens. He smiled and greeted her, still holding his lover tightly. Long time no see, Malo. She said, long time no see, Your Grace. This is a simple sample dress. Please try it on, my lady. She jumped and replied, yes. Mrs. Malo said, then please come to the dressing room. She hurried to change immediately. Asin sat behind, looking at her adoringly. Upon entering the dressing room, she breathed a sigh of relief. She told herself, calm down, Regina. No matter how well he acts, you mustn't fall for it. Why, you ask? She walked out anxiously. He always had a smile on his face whenever he looked at her. He also kept complimenting her. It suits you very well. However, Regina's mind was preoccupied with something else. Because Asim Roy is a monster with the face of an angel. He waved his hand. Come here. She flinched back, a little wary. She tried to suppress her emotions. And sat on his lap. These blatant actions made the designers feel a little awkward. Truly, if you're not embarrassed, then the embarrassed person will be someone else. Regina was planning something in her mind. Moreover, when the time is right, I will run away from this person. One evening, they sat together in a carriage, the wind blowing through the cracks in the door, making the curtains flutter. Inside, they sat silently facing each other. Asim took the initiative to praise her. You did a great job last time. Regina still didn't understand what he meant. He explained, I mean when you were getting fitted for the dress. Her face flushed red with embarrassment. A few hours later, they arrived at the party venue. Asim stepped out first. And turned back to say to her as a reminder, I hope you'll behave the same way at the party. Regina just silently lowered her head. And then gently offered her hand for him to help her out of the carriage. She seemed to be quite used to this. This is another perfect performance, isn't it? If so, then I also have my own methods. A beautiful girl was introduced. This is Regina, daughter of Count Loy. The person she was talking to was also a member of the royal family. He introduced himself, I am Count Roniate. It's a pleasure to meet you, my lady. Her smile from earlier became even brighter. Of course, it was just a fake smile. Regina thought to herself, it's not just Asim who can act like this. He asked Regina about her relationship. But, my lady, what is your relationship with Duke Roy? She replied, Asim and I are. Speak of the devil, and he shall appear. Asim came from behind, put his arm around her waist, and said, we are engaged. This made Regina blush. He was very gentle with her, holding a plate of pastries and saying, I brought the cheesecake you like. Thank you, Asim. This unexpected situation gave Regina goosebumps. She didn't expect him to know her preferences. How did he know I like cheesecake? Count Roniate called out to them, it seems the Duke cherishes his fiancée very much. But isn't getting married like this a bit too fast? Both of them became even more intimate. Asim said, you can't get married without love. Regina chimed in, Asim, you're so on the other hand, she felt a little apprehensive. But he said he would marry me even if we didn't love each other. Suddenly, something caught her attention. She glanced around at everyone. Anyway, the people around us are constantly curious. Although Duke Aelrand is a family with a long history, but Asim's presence has increased the value of the party. Regina looked very sad. Perhaps everyone wants to be close to Asim. Even getting married attracts people like this. After that, she strolled around the party, her eyes glancing around like a thief. She thought, but Kai said he would be coming today too. Unexpectedly, from afar, the sound of someone sobbing caught Regina's attention. She looked in their direction. A princess in a red dress was supporting a princess in a blue dress. Regina was curious, what's going on? Suddenly, the princess in the red dress looked at her with hostile eyes. She looked no different from someone who had just had their engagement broken off. That rude gesture made Regina only able to smile and let it go, even though she didn't understand what was happening. But it seemed like the situation was getting worse and worse. A storm of rage was about to descend, starting with the princess in the red dress and landing on Regina. She yelled, what are you looking at? Go away. Regina was surprised. What? She remembered the affectionate hug earlier. Could it be because of that? Regina sadly walked away, her heart breaking even more. That's why I said, why did I fall for a man like this? I should have met better people. Her unusual behavior caught the attention of a red-haired Duke. He called out her name, Regina. Hearing the familiar voice, she turned around and immediately recognized him. Is that Kai? He finally came as he said he would. Sensing arrival, Asim flew over like a gust of wind and put his arm around Regina. He questioned the identity of the man in front of him. Regina, sorry for the long conversation. This is without waiting for her to speak, he introduced himself. I am Kai, Marquis Beloy. After giving the other party his information, Kai expressed his desire to speak privately with Regina. Regina, I have something urgent to discuss with you. She hesitated at this moment. Kept looking towards a scene. That. Understanding the issue, Kai asked him, Your Grace, may I take Regina outside for a moment? Asin bluntly refused. What? No. I'm a little jealous. She replied shyly, Asin, I'll be right back. Asin's expression was like a child separated from his mother. He said, Go quickly and come back, Regina. Arriving at a less crowded area, she asked directly, What's the matter? Kai pressed his hand to his mouth anxiously, seemingly finding it difficult to speak. There's something I don't know if I should ask you or not. Regina, could it be? His cheeks gradually flushed red. Were you threatened before the marriage? Kai's innocent question caused Regina to fall silent. She asked back in surprise, What do you mean? Regina waved her hand, What are you joking about? I married him because I really like him. An unusual worry arose within her. What is this feeling? Kai explained, It's because you suddenly got married, so I. Regina continued to wave her hand, Don't worry needlessly. He seemed to understand the issue, rubbing his neck as he tried to calm down, Right, I'm worrying needlessly. It's good that you like him and married him. Regina gently patted Kai's head, comforting him, Don't worry too much, I'm fine. He replied, I'm not your younger brother. Because you're cute, I'll let it slide. What does cuteness have to do with letting it slide? These words unintentionally reached Asin's ears. His gaze started to change. The two also began to notice Asin. Kai said, You should go inside. Your fiancé is staring at us. Regina turned and asked, Asin? Noticing her looking at him, he quickly changed his demeanor, flashing a gentle smile. Kai, finding it strange, thought, That's not the expression he had earlier. Asin asked her, Are you done talking? It seems too friendly, huh? Regina laughed awkwardly. Was he staring at me the whole time? How can he be so committed to that idea? The whispers from the other duchesses made her anxious. To defuse the situation, Regina clung to Asin's arm, expressing her affection, He's just a close friend. Don't worry, Asin. Anyway, if it's come to this, I have to follow the idea, right? She wondered to herself. Also at that castle. After spending a long time at the banquet, Regina felt slightly unwell, dragging her tired self around. Regina sighed, Right now, I just want to quickly take a warm bath. Suddenly, a hand grabbed her wrist from behind. It was her fiancé, Asin. She asked curiously, What is it? He placed a gentle kiss on her hand. Good night. Good night to you too, Asin. He then left, leaving her surprised. What was that? Regina's face clearly showed her worry. What's his intention doing that? The next morning arrived. In the luxurious room, the Lord and she were preparing to enjoy breakfast. Good morning. Good morning, Jabello. The head of the dining table remained empty. It was a special seat reserved only for Asin. Seeing this, she asked the butler, Where's Asin? The butler, while pouring water, replied, He went to see His Majesty, the Emperor, early this morning. She started to feel restless. What business would require him to go so early? Besides, he came back quite late yesterday. Regina recalled the moment he lightly kissed her hand. The thought startled her, her face flushing red. Why am I suddenly having this thought? The butler added, Early this morning, I heard there were fires in many places. She asked, Fires occurred simultaneously? Yes, he's investigating whether it was arson or not. Regina worried again, Asin was called to investigate the fire? Something is strange. There's definitely something bigger behind this, which is why it's so strange. Amidst the fire scene, a question was raised, was there such content in the original work? That same morning, the sound of carriages echoed. Regina, sitting inside, was still suspicious about her fiancé's actions. The more she thought about it, the stranger it seemed. Some memories had faded, but an event like this was naturally remembered. As expected, this fire wasn't in the original work. It first appeared when I wore these non-prescription glasses. Inside the carriage was also a young man with long hair. She asked him, Your name is Eget, right? Yes, that's correct. She further inquired about the fire, Do you know the extent of the damage? He replied, Around the fire area, only counting the injured, there are 3 people. Regina lifted her head, 3 people? The scale of damage is less than what I saw this morning. Yes, the fire occurred at a restaurant. They said because it was early morning, there were no customers, only staff at the time of the fire. After their exchange, the two arrived at the fire scene. The place was in chaos. Regina suspected, was it intentionally targeted when there were no people, or was it to delay the discovery of the fire? I want to go out and have a look. She stepped out of the carriage and approached the scene. As they got closer, they heard more whispers about the fire. The sight before her eyes plunged Regina into deep thought, her face expressing utmost fear. The fire had completely burned down the roof, leaving scorch marks on the upper floor. Looking at the damage caused by the fire, the surrounding people were heartbroken, some unable to accept the harsh reality. There were clearly differences between the original work and this world. Because I'm alive, is that okay? But there was no other way. Regina clutched her clothes, trying to calm herself. Her thoughts shifted. I don't want to die, and I don't want to be a hero. She suddenly turned away from the horrors around her. I have to be more careful in the future. A figure behind her made Regina wary. He was staggering behind her while she observed the situation. He's been following me since earlier. A thud rang out. They had accidentally bumped into each other. Excuse me. As she spoke, she looked up to see who he was. Because of this action, Regina accidentally smelled gasoline on him. His large physique and scary face overwhelmed her. Regina trembled. He's suspect number one in this fire. In this situation, the person with the smell of gasoline. Despite her fear, she quickly turned her face and walked away. Excuse me. Seeing this, he called out, Hey, miss. In her mind, there was only one goal, to reach Agathe. Regina looked around. In this place, black-haired people are women. A little further, and there's Agathe. The young man from the carriage earlier was also surveying the situation. Suddenly, the voice of the man with the gasoline smell boomed, I told you to stop. Someone's calling. That hand was only a few centimeters away from her. The situation was urgent. Like a fairy tale, Asin arrived on a black horse from behind, his eyes full of hatred as he looked at the man. This also increased the distance between her and the strange hand. His appearance was like a miracle. Regina's gaze towards him was enough to show that her worry had subsided. He also looked at her with concern. In the next moment, Asin dismounted and asked the man, What's going on? The man with the gasoline smell pulled his hat down and left. Nothing, sir. Excuse me. He left before their eyes, the threat resolved. Regina breathed a sigh of relief. She thought, when he's an enemy, he's the worst enemy, but when on the same side, he's the strongest comrade. That's what Regina felt about him after the rescue. Asin asked her, What's going on here, Regina? She replied, I wanted to see how things were. She added, That man smelled of gasoline. Was he the arsonist? Asin soothed her, Even if he wasn't, it's crowded, so don't worry. He then led her to the carriage. Let's go back. I was planning to look at other places, but if that's the case, I'll follow Asin's words. He turned to the young man. Ride back on horseback. Yes, sir. Noble ladies don't usually visit places like this. Regina's heart began to race. She asked him, why? This time too. Past memories resurfaced at this moment. Someone's voice echoed, Do I look like the type who enjoys murder? The scene back then was terrifying. A bloody hand lay, sprawled on the floor. Thinking about this, Regina became even more frightened, her body trembling. In complete contrast, Asin thought she was afraid of him. You seem very scared of me. As he spoke, he flashed an amused smile, causing her to turn her face away from his gaze. Despite that, Asin was very reliable. He comforted her, Don't worry, I don't have a hobby of killing my wife. If you don't betray me, these words directly made Regina collapse, her distraught mind filled with the question, Is he coaxing me, or is he threatening me? Asin changed the subject. Oh, right, my brother said he wants to meet you. You can refuse if it's bothersome. Regina was surprised that he wanted to meet her. How can I refuse the Emperor's summons? I suggested you refuse, but since you said you'd go, I won't stop you. Once again, Regina fell into negative thoughts, worried about her life. That makes me even more uneasy. Why did the Emperor summon me? Is it because I'm engaged to his brother? Or because he already knows about that? Having no choice, she closed her eyes and thought, even if I don't do this, can I successfully join the organization? In a secret room somewhere, a man in a black cloak quietly entered. Before him stood a mysterious blonde woman. She was Alicia Rouse. This woman asked him, "How are things going?" The man replied, "Still according to plan. Everyone is focusing on restoring the fire scene." Hearing this, she gave a cryptic smile. Standing and gazing at the sunset, she replied, "I see. They say Duke Leroy got married." Alicia tightened her grip on the curtain, her expression angry. Married? To whom? To young Lady Regina, daughter of Count Lawyer. Marriage, how strange. Investigate it. Yes, ma'am. A light clap from the man, and he vanished immediately afterward. She leaned back in her chair, contemplating. When should I go meet her? Back with Duke Leroy, after returning to the mansion together, the two were enjoying tea. He said, "From today onwards, let's do a different job. Because if we leave things as they are, I'll probably have to keep looking for another job." The energy radiating from Asin was very positive, in stark contrast to Regina's pained expression. "I didn't come here specifically to look for work. Last time, I said I needed someone to grasp public sentiment, right?" "Yes." Asin's words surprised her slightly. Sipping his tea, he said calmly, "I can't attend women's gatherings, such as the Duchess Alexander's return banquet. Since I have to participate in places like that, let's create a big wave together. Creating rumors is also good." Regina nodded repeatedly. "I'll do my best." He added, "And also, I've never seen you wear the necklace I gave you." These words startled her. Regina thought about the necklace. "I left that in the drawer." She quickly explained, "Because it's so precious, I put it away." He chuckled and said, "I'm glad to hear you say that." Regina tried to hide her apprehension from him. Asin's silence made her wonder, isn't he going to ask me anything else? It seemed like everything had calmed down. She lifted her teacup. Thank goodness, I didn't expect it to go so smoothly. But things weren't as she imagined. Before the tea reached her lips, she heard Asin's voice, "When can we hold our wedding? We have to plan it meticulously." Regina was bewildered. "Please, let's go back to talking about the necklace. If you want to hold it on a particular day, feel free to say so." That. She hesitated for a moment, her mind searching for a way to handle this. How long would it take to run away from this person? 3 months, 6 months, or a year? If I say I want it that late, will he agree? At that moment, footsteps approached them. He yelled, "Duke! What is it? Why didn't you knock?" "I apologize. This matter is extremely urgent." It was unclear what had made him so breathless, as if he had been chased by dogs. His voice trembled. "Police Inspector Hugo has been murdered." This news stunned both of them. According to what she'd heard from Asin, Police Chief Hugo was supposed to be investigating the fire. Simultaneous fires, and the police chief investigating the case was also killed. Regina leaned against the door, distraught. Asin is the protagonist of this novel, so there's no reason why such a serious case wouldn't be recorded. Her gaze fell on the cabinet opposite her. That's right. Facing the books, she rejoiced, "I wrote down the plot details I remembered in case of situations like this." Regina picked up a sparkling blue book. On top of the book was a glittering emerald cord. Holding it, she said, "This is really beautiful. How much money must this have cost? Such a precious treasure. Although, to me, this is no different from a rope binding a death row inmate." But then she remembered Asin's earlier words, "I've never seen you wear the necklace I gave you." This bothered her. A bold decision was made. She raised the necklace high. However, Regina stopped and placed it back on the table. "Stop thinking unnecessary thoughts and focus on finding the notebook." She carefully read the pages, one by one. Even so, it took her quite some time to fully understand. "Strange," Regina said. Looking at the page, there was nothing inside. She wondered, why is there nothing? She checked the remaining pages, the rustling sound indicating her urgency. "I clearly wrote it down. Even if it's not in those 2 novels. Actually, I don't know if the original work's content will be helpful because if it comes to that, I'll already be dead. A bleak future." She hugged the book and sighed on the bed. Pressing her hand to her forehead, she murmured, "What should I do?" Dusk gradually descended. Beside Police Chief Hugo's body, there were murmurs. Asin, on horseback, asked, "Is there anything suspicious around here?" The investigator replied, Your Grace, we haven't found anything suspicious yet. Dismounting, he asked further, Have you found the murder weapon? No, not yet. Tell the people near the scene to come see me. First, retreat. The investigator tipped his hat and replied seriously, Yes, I understand. Asin's gaze followed the investigator, who was talking to a few other people. He pondered, What should I do? The cloaked man behind him nodded. We missed it. He added, It seems like more than 5 people were involved. Looking at the body, Asin stroked his chin, deducing, the culprit stabbed between the spine and severed the spinal cord. This isn't the work of ordinary thugs or rebels. This is troublesome. He then said, I'll leave this to you. I have to return to the Imperial Palace immediately. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at the Imperial Palace, where he intended to speak with his brother. Something strange. The arson attacks occurred simultaneously, so it's not just 1 or 2 criminals. At least 5. The purpose of the arson is also unclear. Asin's older brother, Crown Prince Ruli, replied, as expected. The two continued to investigate the case. During the investigation, an inspector was murdered. Suddenly like this. Means he was murdered by the forces behind this? As he spoke, Ruli took notes. Asin lowered his head. When will this end? I chose this path. Alright, it all depends on your strength. I won't hold back against you. Ruli asked about Regina. How's your fiancé? He honestly replied, she agreed. We'll choose a date for the ceremony soon. The emperor asked him, but do you really have to get married? Asin's face turned cold. It's not necessary to go that far. Asin turned to leave. I'll be going then. His brother chuckled. So cold. Their personalities seemed completely opposite. Watching Asin leave, Ruli thought, I heard he didn't have any special feelings for that girl, but his reaction just now. Ruli dropped his pen. Once known as Regina Lawyer. I look forward to it. His eyes looked menacing. The sound of rummaging echoed in the castle library. Regina was desperately searching for a glimmer of hope. Asin went out early again. He's probably investigating yesterday's incident. It's a relief that I'm not trapped like I worried. If the schedule doesn't clash with the designated one, I can do anything. Thinking about this, Regina made a plan for the following day. Tomorrow, I'll go to the bookstore I usually visit. Butler Gibello entered to inform Regina, Miss, the young lady you were looking for has arrived. Hearing this, she asked back, Me? Yes, she introduced herself as the young lady of House Isoda Rose. This familiar name made Regina's eyes widen. Isoda? Hurried footsteps from the stairs indicated Regina's urgency. She looked towards the reception table. A blonde guest in a flared dress, presumably Isoda, was waiting. Regina called out, Isoda. The other girl's gaze was strangely different. But within seconds, Isoda's face lit up with joy upon seeing Regina. She ran and hugged her tightly. Then, Isoda looked her over from head to toe, checking on her. Are you all right? That guy isn't bothering you, is he? Regina chuckled softly, really. Rose's affection for Regina was truly genuine. Cupping her face, the girl said, You look thinner. Regina denied it. No, I'm not. You'd be surprised how much I eat. What do you mean, no? Then you're only half right. Come eat dessert. Isoda pulled her towards the dining table. I can't stop you. Regina replied, I know. A knock interrupted their conversation. It was Asin. He entered and asked, Am I interrupting? I heard there was a guest, so I came to greet them. Regina smiled and replied, Asin. Isoda, on the other hand, was not pleased, her displeasure evident. Hello. He asked Isoda, Do you mind if I sit next to you? She didn't bother replying, thinking, You're already sitting down. She turned to Regina. Oh, right, Regina, I ate the cake you sent me a while ago. The cake she had personally bought for her best friend. I'm glad you liked it. Regina replied. Asin suddenly pulled her head closer. No good. You have cake crumbs here. Isoda was about to explode. Her tone changed. Regina, let's go see the opera at the Grand Theatre. The performer is very famous, it feels very different from the previous times. He interjected, Can Duke Leroy come along as well? At some point, these two had become opposing forces. If Regina wasn't sitting there, they might have already attacked each other. Isota's tone was sharp. Aren't you busy, Duke? We ladies will be gossiping, so you should go to work. He retorted, it's all right. Around this time, I always have time for her. Poor Regina, stuck between two raging storms. What's wrong with these people? Originally, it wasn't the female lead with the second male lead, but they're getting more and more competitive. Isota said, the generous Duke will yield to me, won't he? Asin continued, I'm ashamed, but I can't leave her side, as I fell for her at first sight. Instead of romantic words, the atmosphere was fierce. In front of a luxurious carriage. Isota called out from inside, we should meet outside next time, Regina, somewhere without that Duke. Yes, she replied, be careful going home, Isota. It seemed as though Asin had won that little battle. Regina worried. Isota really seemed to dislike Asin. Had that romantic love story disappeared just like that? The original story had been changed. My survival had such a big impact. Regina entered the living room, a dazed look on her face. He asked her, have you seen your friend off? Yes, but Asin, what do you think of Isota? This question seemed to fluster him a bit. What do I think? Well, that is to say, is she pretty? Let me see. In my opinion, I'm more handsome. This boast wasn't entirely untrue in this case. The aura he radiated left Regina speechless. She pressed him, so, you really don't think anything? Suddenly, Asin embraced her and kissed her gently. He said, it seems like you think I like someone else. Asin comforted her, don't worry. I don't see anyone else, but you. These sweet words left Regina flustered and not knowing where to look. She quickly excused herself, I'll be going back to my room now. Seeing her like this, he chuckled and said, be careful, Regina. As Regina left, his expression changed abruptly. So, how did the assignment go? The cloaked figure slowly emerged. We found the arsonist, but he's dead? Asin asked. Yes, I apologize. At this moment, Asin gave a strange smile. Lead the way. They entered a dark corner of the house, where everything was in disarray. On the floor lay the bodies of 3 unidentified individuals, sprawled amidst bloodstains. Asin and his subordinate surveyed the scene. Their faces are completely smashed. I followed the trail to the hideout, but they were already dead when I arrived. He asked, what's the estimated time of death? About 1 or 2 hours ago. It seems like he killed these bugs and ran away. Escaping was quite easy. It seems someone is behind this. Asin brought up an unrelated matter, what's the Empress Dowager's situation lately? It's been quiet recently. Hearing this, Asin thought, that's not right. Impossible. After such a big commotion, she wouldn't just sit still. She's definitely hiding something. Grasping the current situation, Asin instructed, investigate again. Yes, I understand, his subordinate replied. It was a picture of cunning and deceit. Meanwhile, Alicia, who had appeared earlier, was by his side, reporting the situation. Knowing everything, she smiled slyly. At the Grand Theater, musicians were playing beautiful melodies. A couple danced gracefully to the elegant music. Regina and Isota were enjoying the enchanting performance, but Isota seemed quite uncomfortable. Her face became increasingly more contorted. As the concert ended and darkness fell, Regina remarked, these seats were so comfortable. Money really is everything. Isota frowned and said, but Regina, when you get married, you have to consider a person's character too. Of course. Regina hesitated, thinking, but the Asin in the original story seemed to treat the person he loved very well. In the original story, Asin wholeheartedly cared for the female lead, Isota. He listened to anything she wanted. In that original story, they were truly meant to be together. According to Isota's wishes, she desired peace for the Didan Empire and Rueli's safety. In the end, he gifted Isota with his own death. The 2 girls walked towards their seats. Regina, still feeling uneasy, thought, Asin remained forever in Isota's memories like that. That was clearly the ending. Just then, Isota called out to Regina. She asked, could you not get married and live with me forever? Regina gently replied, and raise cats and dogs together? I'll think about it. Puppies are cute and obedient, much better than the Duke. What about cats? Regina pondered, cats, come to think of it, what were that leopard and cat I saw in the Imperial Palace? How could there be a leopard in the Imperial Palace? And it could disappear instantly, as if by magic. It could vanish without a trace, just like that? Isoda asked, so, if we live together, raising cats and dogs, we're here. Finally, it was time to say goodbye. Isoda got out of the carriage and waved to Regina. Be careful, Isoda. I'll come visit again. Before leaving, Isoda added a warning, be sure to think carefully about the marriage. Regina just gave a perfunctory laugh. There's no stopping his stubbornness anyway. Isoda returned to her mansion, muttering to herself as she walked. The driver, pulling back the curtain, asked, shall we return to the Duke's residence now, miss? Yes, let's go. Regina felt a little uneasy. Is it because it's been a while since I've been out? I'm a little tired. She decided to take a nap to recover. I'll just close my eyes for a bit. Suddenly, the carriage came to an abrupt halt. The sudden stop jolted her awake. She asked the driver, what's wrong? Are we there yet? Receiving no reply, she leaned closer and lifted the curtain. Regina knocked on the side of the carriage. What's going on? A voice came from the front, miss, the carriage suddenly broke down, so you might have to get out for a moment. What should I do if it's broken? Her hand gripped the handle tightly. A sixth sense stopped her from opening the door. Wait a minute. Why is the coachman's voice so deep? She wondered suspiciously. She probed, could it be someone is imitating the coachman's voice? What would they gain from that? Tension filled the air. But what if I'm not the target? A scene in the original story had many enemies. I'm known as his fiancé, so it wouldn't be strange if I became a target. A knock came again. Miss, what should I do if that's not the coachman? Regina's face stiffened, her emotions in turmoil. Her hand tightened on the door handle. If my guess is right, the danger is the same inside and outside. Caught in the crossfire. After a moment of internal struggle, she decided to open the door. I need to get out first. Elsewhere, scorecards were held high, suggesting some sort of competition. A voice rang out, excellent. A masked figure announced, this product has been bid at 1 million. 1 million. You can have this product right away. The product he referred to was a person bound in chains. He continued the auction, now then, let's see the next product. This is also a fine product with excellent craftsmanship. Among the audience, a familiar figure was present. He frowned at the human product. Meanwhile, the bound individual was terrified, unsure of their fate. The figure stood up and declared, I think I've seen enough. The auctioneer asked, puzzled, what do you mean by that? Arrest them all. He removed his mask. It was Asin, who had infiltrated the black market auction, disguised as a buyer. The police stormed in immediately afterward. The auctioneer begged for mercy. The masked woman beside him couldn't escape the handcuffs either. Chaos erupted in the hall. We have apprehended everyone, from the auctioneer to the participants, sir. Good work. Take them away. After chasing the arsonist, they had uncovered a human trafficking auction. The surprise raid was a success, but did the Empress Dowager really start the fire for this? He continued to speculate, perhaps the arson wasn't related to the Empress Dowager at all. But his eyes changed. Something doesn't feel right. At the mansion. A servant called out, Master. Others cried out, apologizing, he's on his way back from Marquis Rose's place. Asin frowned. Where's Regina? The servant stammered, Miss. Regina stirred awake, her hands tied behind her to a chair. Her eyes were dull. The servant continued, Miss has been kidnapped. In a dark room, illuminated only by a faint lamp. Our heroine was tied to a chair, unable to move. Regina seemed to be in a daze. Her eyes slowly focused. Where am I? She tried to recall what had happened. I definitely thought the coachman's voice was strange. I hesitated, then opened the door and stepped out. It happened so fast, I don't remember anything. Moreover, I couldn't see anything. Fear washed over her. Regina trembled. In this state of panic, she questioned herself, can I get out of here alive? To regain her composure, she shook her head. Calm down and think. Then, she turned her attention to the ropes binding her wrists. First, I hope I can get these off. To escape, she struggled, trying to move the chair. She was trying to find a wall. If I keep moving back like this, I'll hit something. Finally, she managed to back against a wall. The moment she did, she realized it was a wall. Despite being tied up, she still held on to hope, groping for something. Please let me find something, please. A moment later, her hand brushed against something, surprising her. She fumbled, trying to identify it. What is this? Sharp and hard, it was a piece of wood. If it's this, I wonder if I can get it off. She rubbed the ropes against the wood, hoping to cut them. Her eyes shone with a fierce will to live. She rubbed faster and faster. Please break. Finally, the rope snapped. She felt a surge of hope. It's broken. Before she could celebrate, she heard noises from outside. Someone was coming. To avoid being discovered, she quickly untied her legs. This side, right? Preparing to escape, she hid behind the door. Despite her efforts, she couldn't shake the feeling of dread. Honestly, I think the chances of getting caught are higher. But rather than waiting passively to be recaptured, she would take her chance. Finally, someone opened the door and entered. Seizing the golden opportunity, Regina charged out, slamming into him to escape. The man was startled, surprised that she had managed to free herself. He yelled, "Stop that woman. She's escaping." At that moment, all Regina could do was run. Even though her body was exhausted, she couldn't stop. If she were caught, it would be over. She ran up the stairs, only to encounter two guards. The man from earlier caught up and shouted, "Catch her." Regina was cornered. Taking a gamble, she charged straight at the two guards. I have to escape. Her worst fear was realized. One of the guards grabbed her arm. Losing her balance, she tumbled backward. The fall was painful. The men yelled in frustration as Regina writhed in pain. What should we do? She wants to suffer, right? Of course. I gave her something strong, so why? He dragged her back to the room. Who did this? I apologize for my negligence in not checking properly. Meanwhile, Regina thought, who would kidnap Asin's fiancé? Someone close to him, and someone confident enough to pull it off. Empress Dowager Alicia Ruscio. The Empress Dowager exuded an air of arrogance. She glared at Regina and asked, "What is your relationship with Duke Leroy?" Regina remained silent. The Empress Dowager continued, "Have you made a deal with him?" Regina thought, if it's the Empress Dowager, she'll kill me if I don't talk. Have I received anything in the past few days? They are all life-threatening. I think Asin is better. Not the best, not the worst, but a choice between the best and the worst. She was torn, unsure what to choose. The Empress Dowager, annoyed by her silence, clicked her tongue. She then said, "He's not a man who marries without ulterior motives." Clearly, there's something there. Flashback to the past, since childhood, Asin and Rolly had grown up under the care of the current Empress Dowager. Asin's mother and Rolly's mother had both committed suicide, leaving only her. The Emperor had left the Empress's position vacant, and her role was to care for the three children, Rolly, Asin, and her own child. When they were young, there were no major difficulties. According to her, she loved the children wholeheartedly and embraced them tenderly. Therefore, as much as the children understood the Empress Dowager, she understood them. Regina was too afraid to speak. The Empress Dowager interrogated her, "Don't you have any thoughts about Duke Leroy?" Regina deliberately ignored her, showing contempt. Seeing her attitude, the Empress Dowager sighed. "That's not something a human can do. It's a monster." "Yes, I know the Asin that you don't." Regina was stunned. The Empress Dowager threatened, "Want to see?" Without hesitation, she revealed that Asin is a monster who killed his own father. Does someone so immoral deserve to be called human? Regina started to think. He knew he killed his father through the novel. He must have read the novel. Could such a crazy villain really exist? But why is the Empress Dowager telling me this? Probably to justify her own baseless actions against Asin. I won't intervene anymore. I'll just watch from the sidelines. Suddenly, she flinched, startled by something. She stood up and walked towards Regina. "You still refuse to talk, no matter what?" Regina, terrified, squeezed her eyes shut. When nothing happened, she cautiously opened her eyes. The Empress Dowager was right in front of her, smirking. "I was so curious about Asin Leroy's marriage. It seems there's nothing interesting after all." She caressed Regina's cheek, making her shudder. She then touched Regina's hair, commenting, "Your hair is quite beautiful." Regina struggled, but the guard quickly tied her hands again. He then removed her ring. Before leaving, she turned to her subordinate. "Take her away. I'll show her what happens when she holds his hand. I'll kill them all." Many people were watching. Why doesn't anyone know the truth? Regina was bound and taken away. The scene changed to a dark exterior. One of the Empress Dowager's subordinates threw the ring into a nearby river. After finishing, he reported, "It's handled, master." "She'll die, won't she?" The Empress Dowager ordered, "Leave no trace. Weeds must be uprooted completely." She boarded her carriage and left. A subordinate informed her, "As seen there searching the entire area." A triumphant smile spread across her face. "I'm really curious to see his face when he learns his fiancée is dead." Back at the river. Light reflected off the stone on the ring. A hand reached down and picked it up. Above, people shouted, "Everyone, wait." Below, Asin held the ring, thinking, "I wonder if this ring has some kind of tracking magic on it. It seems like it was carried down from upstream." He immediately ordered his subordinates, "Go upstream." He quickly mounted his horse. His eyes flashed with memories of the time he spent with his fiancée. The memory of his kiss on her forehead made her blush. The sound of galloping hooves grew louder. He held on to the hope, "I will definitely find her." Back to Regina. Facing the man's sword, she was terrified. "If something happens, can I come back? Death? Things had come to this. Is this the end? If I die and become a ghost, I will go to God and grab his collar, even just once." The man raised his sword to end her life. Feeling there was no escape from death, tears welled up in her eyes. But she refused to let it end like this. She cried out, "Wait." The two men stopped. "What is it?" She stammered, I just. Her hesitation confused them. Panicked, she thought to herself, "Regina, please say something. I don't want to die like this." She didn't want to die so quickly. She pleaded, "Wait a little longer." Tears streamed down her face. "Can't I at least have something to eat before I die? Candy, for example?" He was taken aback by her last request. "Candy? Don't be ridiculous. Don't let her trick you." Regina sobbed, "No food?" They mocked her. "She's so pathetic." "But the master ordered us to finish her off immediately." But one of them said, "A little longer won't hurt, right? Just give her the candy and then kill her." They relented, granting her final wish, and gave her a piece of candy. Regina tearfully ate her supposed last meal. She thought, before dying, I should have something delicious, right? Asin didn't come after all. What was I expecting? Asin is the reason all of this happened. Despite everything, she felt resentful. After a moment, he asked, "Are you done eating?" She replied, "Yes." "It won't hurt, will it?" Feeling no regrets, she cried out, "Just kill me already." Flashback to before the kidnapping, Sally had told her, "You should have told me to savor the precious thing you made." Mississippi Regina had joked, "I can make more for you." Regina thought happily, "Before I run away, I should send her back to the Loy family." The scene shifted to a carriage. Inside, Adiu asked curiously, "Surely something happened? But why did you insist on changing to such a shabby carriage, miss?" Miss sensing his suspicion. She hesitated. "That," she thought, "because I don't want anyone to know where I'm going, it's best to have the carriage return and hire another one from a rental place." "I must look strange to Adiu." To answer his question, Regina said, "If we go in Duke Leroy's carriage, wouldn't something like last time happen again?" Adiu replied confidently, "This time I will guarantee your safety. Nothing like that will happen." She felt somewhat reassured. "Still, it's best to hide the fact that I'm Regina Loy as much as possible. That way, both Adiu and I will be safe." He finally accepted her explanation. Relieved, Regina sighed, "Finally, I got away with it." Arriving at their destination, she thought, "He probably won't be suspicious, right? He's quiet, so I can't tell what he's thinking." Stopping at a shop, she told him, "I'll go in alone. Wait here for me." He obeyed. "Understood, miss." She excitedly entered the shop. "It's been a while since I've been here. I used to come here often." The shopkeeper greeted her warmly. Well. Long time no see, Mississippi. What book are you looking for today?" She replied, "I'm not here for books today. Could I use the back door?" He was surprised. "The back door? Of course. Go ahead." She thanked him gratefully. She slipped out the back door. "It's a good thing I'm acquainted with the shopkeeper. I have to act quickly before Adiu notices." Seizing the opportunity, she entered a nearby shop. She hesitated at the entrance. Good, there are a lot of people inside, so they probably won't notice me. Regina slowly walked in. She approached a young man and called out, "Excuse me." He greeted her. "Welcome. How can I help you at our information guild?" She handed him a bag of money and requested a connection. He read the information she provided. "I see. What kind of person are you looking for?" Regina gave him the specifics: someone exceptional, interested in the elixir trade, quick-witted, and above all, discreet. Back in the present, feeling utterly helpless, she begged, "Just kill me already." She had no regrets left. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the room. She looked up in surprise. Her captors were startled. "What was that?" One of them stepped forward. "I'll go check." Regina's eyes were brimming with tears. Could it be? The door slowly opened. Asin burst in, his magic radiating outwards. The force of his entrance sent one of the men sprawling. He said menacingly, "That's a rather forceful greeting." Seeing him, Regina was stunned, unable to believe her eyes. One of the men grabbed her hair, holding a sword to her throat. "Drop your sword." Asin remained calm. How unoriginal. Seeing his lack of fear, the man pressed the sword closer to her neck. "Drop it." The sharp blade cut into her skin, drawing blood. Seeing the dangerous situation, Asin was worried for his fiancée. To prevent any further harm, he reluctantly dropped his weapon. He allowed himself to be captured. But instead of being afraid, Regina thought, "If Asin is here, I'll be all right." Asin is so powerful that he even gave the original male lead a run for his money. These guys are nothing. He can take them down in minutes. Worried, she glanced at her captor. "The problem is me." He yelled triumphantly, "We have her." In this predicament, she thought, they're using me as a hostage to stop Asin. If I could just get a little closer to him. With his hostage, the man taunted, surely His Highness Asin wouldn't be hindered by his fiancée, would he? However, Regina realized that all eyes were on Asin. "I don't know if this will work," she muttered. 1. 2. She looked at Asin. Her eyes flashing with a silent plea. He nodded in understanding. At that moment, she closed her eyes. And wrenched herself free from the man's grasp. For a moment, she thought she had escaped. "I just need to get to Asin." But something happened. Her vision narrowed. Just as she thought she was free, the man slashed her throat. She realized her mistake. These are the Empress Dowager's men. I should have known they'd use magic. I was too careless. The fatal wound sent her collapsing to the floor. Strangely, glowing bubbles began to appear around her. She uttered her last words, "Am I going to die like this?" She closed her eyes, slipping away. Her last sensations were the metallic scent of blood, a burning heat, the sounds of Asin fighting, and a miracle. He cried out in disbelief, "Impossible." Her body sat up, droplets of water rising around her. The wound on her neck healed completely. But I was clearly slashed. With nothing left to hold him back, Asin launched himself at her attackers. One by one, they fell around her. The fight was over quickly. He approached her. And untied her. "Am I still alive?" she asked, bewildered. He seemed to realize she was unaware of her own power. "Power?" she asked, confused. He replied gently, "It seems you have healing abilities." She could only think, healing abilities? That wasn't in the original story. He lifted her into his arms, surprising her. Embarrassed, she said, "I can walk." He reassured her, "It's all right. Just lean on me." Her mind was racing. "I was bleeding a bit, but not so much that I couldn't walk. My throat was slashed, and yet I'm completely fine? How strange. And what's with this healing ability?" As they stepped outside, a gust of wind swept over her. The scene outside was chaotic. Soldiers, seeing him emerge, reported, "We've captured all the escapees." He carried her to his horse and ordered, "Bring the ones inside too." They obeyed. "Yes, sir." "What should we do with the ones who kidnapped the miss?" As he mounted his horse, Regina blushed. "Of course, they have to pay the price. I'll leave the rest to you." Being so close to him made her flustered. "Am I really just going to ride like this?" They finally started their journey back. He glanced at her. Remembering the sight of her slashed throat, the blood flowing freely. He thought, what if she didn't have that healing ability? The thought made him clench his fists in anger. He was consumed with guilt. "I have to make it up to her." Daily life back at the mansion was slightly different. Regina said, stirring up public opinion and gathering information according to Asin's wishes. Is my job, right? But to do that, she needed to go out. He simply smiled and said, no. His answer left her speechless. She thought, not long ago, he was treating me like I was on a mission. Now he won't let me step outside the mansion. Why? He replied, you were just kidnapped, and you're saying this? His words hit home, making her feel guilty. Of course, that day was really dangerous. That night, after returning to the mansion, the servants were worried about her. Miss, are you hurt? She reassured them, I'm fine. Sally was horrified. But miss, your dress is covered in blood. Regina just laughed it off. Asin immediately instructed Sally, make something blood-enriching for her tomorrow morning. Sally readily agreed. Ever since that fateful day, Regina had been eating only meat. The doctor said there was nothing wrong. I'm afraid that if this continues, I'll become useless and die young. He made a suggestion, if you want a social gathering, invite some people over. She was surprised by his offer. I've never hosted anything before. But if I learn from the head maid, seeing her hesitation, he smiled. Then don't. Regina was disappointed. He suddenly said, the people working in this mansion have eyes and ears. I trust them, but at the same time, I don't. His words confused her. In her confusion, an idea struck her. Asin and I are pretending to be in love in this very mansion. But if I was kidnapped after the engagement and then appeared in high society, things wouldn't add up. Pleased with her reasoning, she nodded. That makes sense. Rumors spread quickly in this mansion. So, I should just relax for now, right? She decided to stop worrying and picked up a book. But after a while, she felt restless. She turned to Asin. Hey. Regina asked shyly, I'm a little curious about something. Why haven't you been working in your office lately? Why here? He replied as if it were obvious. Because I'm afraid you'll disappear again. His words made her blush. She pretended to look around, trying to hide her flustered expression. She thought, we're alone in the room, so those words weren't an act. She gripped her book tightly. Really? If he says that, does it mean he cares about me? The scene changed to nightfall. A quiet atmosphere filled the room. Regina was engrossed in her book. She glanced at Asin. Is he asleep? She was surprised. So Asin also falls asleep while working? He looks so different like this. Very handsome. Like a beautiful doll. Her eyelashes were also plentiful. Could human skin be so smooth? She approached him to take a closer look, wanting to touch him just once. Suddenly, she realized something and stopped completely. Regina was startled. When did she get so close to him? She had to get back to her place, before he woke up. As she was turning back, he held her back. In this situation, she appeared flustered. Right then, he pulled her into his arms. A very embarrassed expression appeared on her face. Then he raised his hand and stroked her cheek. This situation left her not knowing what to do. It seemed like he was haunted by the day she had her throat slit. Those images now always appeared when he looked at her. He just stared at her. Then he hugged her tightly, as if not wanting to let her go. Regina didn't resist at all. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door from outside. The person outside spoke, Master, Miss, it's Jebelo. Only then did he let go of her and order him to come in. He announced that there was a letter from His Majesty, the Emperor. Seeing the letter, she was shocked and wondered. He explained that it was about the audience they had discussed earlier. I have decided to see you two again in 3 or 4 days. Hearing that, she was surprised. 3 or 4 days? So soon. It was known that Emperor Ruli de Let Millet was the male lead in the original story. The person behind Asin's murders until now. When he saw the two of them, he greeted them slightly. I'm very pleased to meet you two like this. She was full of anxiety. In the original story, she was a supporting character who died at the very beginning. Unexpectedly, she even met the final boss. Meeting such an important person, she respectfully greeted, Your Majesty. Fearful, she only dared to peek at him. He cheerfully said, All right, come here. So you're Miss Loy, whom I've only heard of. I apologize for calling you to my office due to pressing state affairs. She stared at him to assess his relaxed face and red hair, the typical male lead style. If he were with Isoda, they would seem very compatible too. But according to my taste, I really. However, she sneaked a glance at Asin. He also turned and caught her gaze. But interrupting that, Ruoli cheerfully invited them, "Come on, you two, don't just stand there, have a seat. You've probably heard Asin tell the story, right?" Remembering the previous moment, she thought, why am I there in the first place? After being invited to sit, she had to accept and listen. Regina suddenly realized, wait a minute, can I clarify how I got involved in this issue? He then said, they said all of this was my instruction, so don't think too badly of Asin. I'm very sorry about the marriage. But that doesn't mean I can trust you. Hearing those words, she felt despair in her heart. Well, let it be like that. He continued, no matter how close the relationship is, I can't trust everything. Because this is a world where crime is rampant, whether in family relationships or friendships. His words were meaningful. To some extent, she agreed with this, because a prime example in the original story was Asin and Ruoli. We can see in their family portrait. In the beginning of the novel, they were brothers with deep affection. So much so that Asin personally killed his own father for his brother's ascension to the throne. Ruoli also treated Asin the same way. They were truly an ideal pair of brothers. Until they both fell in love with the same woman. The first one to draw his sword was Asin. Asin betrayed his own brother. That's how Asin became the villain in the original story. Back to the present, he was still sitting calmly. Looking at him, she thought that now Asin didn't seem to care about Isoda, so could they continue to live side by side? Suddenly, the emperor brought up something. I've heard about a kidnapping that happened not long ago. I'll keep that detail in mind. Hearing that, she hurriedly thanked His Majesty. He said, it seems I've kept you too long, hasn't it? Now I must step back. Seeing that, Asin excused himself, then I'll take my leave first. Ruoli generously said, if anything happens to Asin, you can come to me. No matter what, I will help you. These words surprised them both greatly. So they stood up and left. Before they left, Ruoli wished them a safe journey home. Seeing the two of them clinging to each other, he thought to himself, they clearly said they didn't care. Remembering his words earlier, perhaps to that extent, there's no need to worry about it. But as someone who has watched for over 20 years, this doesn't look like the attitude of someone who doesn't care. Back with the two of them, Regina sighed in relief. This is the first time I've seen the male lead so closely. It was so nerve-wracking. My first time meeting Isoda was exactly the same. She kept thinking without noticing Asin staring at her. Suddenly realizing it, she was very surprised. But strangely, he asked her, give me your hand. So he put back the ring that had been taken from her. He explained, you lost it last time, so I made a new one. Looking at the ring, she was surprised, such a big gemstone, exactly the same. Now that I think about it, it's strange. Why was the Empress Dowager so determined to steal the ring? She softly said, Asin. Do you know why the person who kidnapped me took the ring? He hesitated, that. It's because I put a tracking spell on it. Now she knew what had happened. Because the ring contained a tracking spell. Her mood gradually became unusual. The stone glowed, raising a suspicion in her. Suddenly, I feel like this ring is very different. When I escape, I'll definitely throw this ring away. Scene changed to a strange place. Several people were bowing and apologizing. I couldn't handle that. Empress Dowager, please give me another chance. She appeared with a calculating expression. You said you used a knife to cut, but then it healed, right? He confirmed, yes, I clearly slit her throat accurately, but it reattached. Immediately after hearing that information, she revealed a cunning smile. What an interesting child, more than I thought. That child is hiding such an ability. Moreover, even Asin has directly intervened. This isn't a normal contractual relationship. I can probably take advantage of it. A moment later, she softly asked them, do you want to live? He hurriedly replied, yes, just give me another chance. Then she agreed. Her eyes held a cruel plot, if you say so, I'll give you a chance. At a cafe in the Duden Empire, Isoda yawned continuously, sitting across from her was Kai. A moment later, she suddenly perked up, looking in a direction and shouting. Kai followed her gaze and turned to look. It was Regina, our female lead. She smiled brightly as she walked towards them. As soon as she sat down, Isoda threw her arms around her, complaining like a long-lost friend, it's outrageous, so mean. You've refused both visits and outings. We were so sad. Kai nodded in agreement next to her. She felt even guiltier and said, sorry, I had some things to do. But seeing them only feign anger and then welcome her so warmly after being released from the house, she felt quite happy. She didn't intend to tell them that she couldn't go out. So she could only think to herself, after meeting Ruoli, I can go out on the condition that I have an escort. She looked at her bodyguard and felt a little apprehensive, then continued to think, the escorting is a bit burdensome, but, can he appear anywhere? Isoda suddenly spoke, interrupting her train of thought, it's been a long time, let's go on a picnic. How about a boat trip and fishing? She replied, a boat trip? Kai seemed interested and added, sounds fun. Since they both agreed, she nodded and said, let's go then, thinking to herself, Asin will probably agree to this, right? Hearing her agreement, Isoda hugged her joyfully and exclaimed, really? Can we really go together? Regina, infected by her joy, smiled even more radiantly and said, yes. Seeing her getting a little carried away, Kai immediately reminded her, Isoda, maintain some decorum. Unexpectedly, she only received indignation from her, what are you ashamed of? As soon as she finished speaking, these two people started to give each other intense looks. She sat next to them, only able to chuckle and think, these two are at it again. She glanced around absent-mindedly and caught sight of a young man with light brown hair at the next table. The young man, as if sensing her gaze, looked up. Seeing Regina looking at him, he smiled and greeted her. Out of politeness, she nodded and smiled back, but felt a little puzzled inside. What's this? Staring constantly like that, it seems like we don't know each other. Isoda, unaware that our female lead hadn't been paying attention to her story, continued to chatter, so, I told him that I couldn't contact Regina, and you know what he said? Although she wasn't following the story, she didn't want to disappoint her and asked along, huh? What did he say? She pretended to be Kai and reenacted the scene, Regina must have her own reasons. Be patient. After finishing the act, she continued to criticize him angrily. And doesn't remember complaining to me before. Seeing her bring up her embarrassing moments, she immediately denied, I never complained like that. Isoda still hadn't given up on teasing him, where did that look like a puppy needing to pee go? Kai suppressed his anger and replied, choose your words carefully. Regina, noticing the increasingly tense atmosphere between them, intervened to prevent them from going overboard and fighting, stop arguing, you two. Despite her anger, when Isoda turned to her, she changed to a face of extreme grievance, wanting to act spoiled and complain, but Regina, Kai she seemed a little tired. So she sipped some ice cream and strawberries to appease her and blocked her mouth, here, eat this, and let it ease your mood. Although she was still a little annoyed, she decided to make peace with him, this time, I'll let it go for Regina's sake. Kai replied, as you wish. She looked at this scene speechless. After reconciling, she opened her mouth to eat the strawberries and ice cream that the female lead fed her. Unfortunately, the food dropped from her mouth, staining Regina's dress with ice cream. Seeing this, Isoda was flustered and didn't know what to do, saying, it's dirty, or. Kai quickly handed her his handkerchief and said, use this, Regina. The female lead replied, no need, I'll go wash it in the restroom and be right back. She could only apologize to her tearfully. She walked to the restroom, thinking to herself, the handkerchief seems expensive, I can't let the ice cream stain it. I'll go wash it quickly. At this moment, she wasn't paying attention to the path ahead and bumped into someone, almost falling head over heels. Fortunately, the young man caught her waist, preventing her from falling flat on her face. This intimate situation stunned them both. The young man asked with a slightly apologetic expression, are you all right? I apologize for touching you without permission. She smiled politely and replied, I'm fine. Only now did she clearly see that it was the young man she had encountered earlier. Seeming to remember the stain on her dress and the recent collision, she asked, did I get any ice cream on you? The young man smiled gently and replied, not at all. Relieved that she hadn't caused any trouble, she said, that's good. Then I'll excuse myself. She walked past the young man, but he seemed a little disappointed. As if he wanted to say something more to her, so he called out, hey, wait a minute. Hearing the call, she turned around with a puzzled expression. He hesitated to speak. Perhaps he was a bit introverted and didn't know what to say to continue talking to her, so he could only sadly say, no, it's nothing. Then he turned and walked away, leaving Regina confused. In the restroom, as she washed her hands, she felt that the person just now was special, but a bit strange. When she returned to her table, she saw her two friends sulking again. Looking at Isota's displeasure, she asked with concern, "Are you all right?" This question sounded familiar, reminding her of the young man who had asked her the same thing earlier. She sat in the carriage, admiring the sunset, and couldn't help but exclaim, "He really has beautiful eyes." Just then, the carriage arrived at the mansion. Entering the house, she handed her cloak to the butler and said, "I'm home." "Where's Asin?" He respectfully replied, "He's in his study." Regina slightly opened the study door, poked her head in, and greeted shyly, "Asin, I'm home." The male lead, who was focusing on his work, immediately looked up and asked with concern, "Did you have fun? With Miss Isota Rose and Mr. Kaivelot?" She lowered her head, her eyes looking up slightly at him as she replied, "Yes, they are my only friends." However, she had noticed his bandaged hand since entering the room. Now that she had the chance, she hesitantly asked, "What happened to your hand?" He pulled his hand back, took a breath, and replied, "It's just a small cut." Looking at his entire bandaged arm, she was a little doubtful, thinking, it doesn't look like just a small cut. Although she thought so, she didn't intend to expose the truth, but still said with a bit of worry, "Can I take a closer look?" Seeing the suspicion in his eyes, she touched her neck and continued shyly, "Maybe I can heal it for you." Like last time, she meant the time she was slit by the kidnappers, and then healed herself instantly. At that time, she was quite surprised by this. The male lead, remembering the moment when he thought he had truly lost her, lowered his head, not wanting her to see his current frightening expression, but replied in a gentle tone, "Is that so?" After regaining his composure, his expressionless face approached her and said, "Then I'll leave it to you." Both of them went to sit on the sofa. He began to unwrap the bandages, while she sat opposite him, carefully examining the wound. She looked a little sad, lowering her head with some confusion, thinking, "Why do I want to heal this person?" At some point, aware of the pain in this hand, she gently held Asin's hand, carefully grasping it. Remembering the original owner's fate of being beheaded in the book, she couldn't help but feel more miserable. She placed her hand on his palm, reassuring herself, "Come on, focus. After all, I can't just stand by and watch someone injured." Thinking so, she closed her eyes, concentrating on healing him, unaware that Asin was gazing at her passionately. Oh, how romantic. She focused all her energy on healing, asking herself, "How do I do this?" Now, her mind was only filled with the repeated thought, "Come on," knowing that he was still looking at her. Seeing her trying so hard, he chuckled helplessly, but couldn't bear to say anything that would discourage her. What a good guy. She tried to recall the feeling from that time, because she didn't know how to use magic to heal, so she had to remember the situation at that time to see if she could use those emotions to activate the magic again. After a long while, she opened her eyes. She softly asked, "All right?" But what Regina saw was a bloody mess. Seeing this, Asin could only chuckle, not knowing what to say. It was fortunate that he could still laugh after having his hand tormented for so long. Contrary to him, she stared at the wound that remained unchanged. Then she grabbed his hand as if she couldn't believe it. The male lead, sitting opposite her, found her expression adorable and couldn't stop laughing. At this moment, she looked calm, but inside, a storm was raging. "Why can't I use the power?" Unable to bear seeing her disappointed, he took her hand and said, "It's okay." This sudden intimate action made her blush. He smiled charmingly, tightened his grip on her hand, and continued reassuringly, "I'll help you." Regina was dazed for a long time, her soul captivated by the male lead's smile. "Girl, snap out of it, you're about to drool." When she came back to her senses, her face was still flushed as she stammered, "What should I do?" He began to guide her, "Look here. Think that you're healing and imagine a healthy hand." The female lead obediently stared at his hand. Closing her eyes, she thought with difficulty, "He told me to imagine my hand is completely healed? The hand is completely healed, the hand is completely healed, the hand has no injuries at all." He watched her struggling to heal him and laughed heartily. She was still intensely focused on finding a way to control the energy within her body. Regina let the feeling from that time surface. The feeling of panic, the itching, the sparkling light, and the completely healed wound. Fortunately, the female lead's persistence paid off. A brilliant light gradually appeared between their palms. The light spread, enveloping her hands and her entire body. Her expression held a mixture of surprise and joy at having successfully used her power. His palm also shimmered, the wound completely disappearing as if it had never existed. Being a modern person who believed in science, she was curious when she saw this strange phenomenon. She touched his hand again, thinking, the wound has disappeared without a trace. Placing a hand on her neck, she said in surprise, so the wound on my neck healed like this? Although he had witnessed her ability twice, he didn't seem surprised, but calmly replied, this makes me even more certain that you possess the power of healing. And you can not only heal yourself, but also heal others. Regina blushed at the compliment. Her hand still lingered on his former wound like a child exploring something new. The male lead didn't rush back to work, letting her touch his hand freely. After a while, she realized she had been holding his hand for a long time and quickly let go, startled. She paused for a moment, blushing as she stammered, I'm sorry, it's so amazing that I unconsciously. This is truly a very useful ability. She still wasn't aware of how close she was to him. Looking up, she realized how close they were. She thought to herself, why are we so close? This is the first time we've looked at each other this closely. The redness that had just faded from her cheeks returned. She looked into the male lead's passionate eyes, seemingly about to fall into the pit of love with him. They were so close that she could feel Asin's breath. Their hands intertwined, she still lost in her own thoughts. Looking at each other at such a close distance, the demonic Asin Leroy also, if I see him as an ordinary person with warm hands who can also be hurt. Would that be crazy? Suddenly, the male lead leaned closer and placed a gentle kiss on her lips, startling her. Regina was slightly flustered. But it quickly passed before Asin's proactive attack. He hugged her tighter, as if wanting to embed her into his body, keeping her for himself. They embraced and kissed, immersed in sweetness. The kiss ended, and their hearts fluttered, beating in unison. She pulled back slightly to get a clear look at his face. His eyebrows slightly furrowed, his cheeks flushed with embarrassment. She couldn't stop scolding herself in her mind, I'm crazy. Looking at the male lead's face now. He seemed quite calm, but who knew if he was screaming madly inside. The female lead suddenly realized what she had just done and abruptly grabbed her skirt, jumping up and running out in embarrassment, screaming in her heart, how could you do that to Asin? Seeing her shy because of him, he laughed happily. After all, he finally got to kiss his wife. Who wouldn't be happy? She was so embarrassed that she wanted to dig a hole and bury herself, thinking, the person who risked his life to propose, how could you do that to him? Rushing back to her room, she threw herself onto the bed, punching it repeatedly. Where was the elegant lady now? Remembering his handsome face and bright smile, she sighed, Asin's face is my type, and even if it weren't, he's so handsome. I didn't risk my life, because I wanted to kiss him, oh my god. Regina rolled over on the soft mattress, her eyes sparkling, the blush on her cheeks not yet faded, lost in a chaotic mess of thoughts. Well, forget about me. But why is Asin like this too? Why is he like this? Then she dreamily remembered the burning kiss from earlier. Her already red face turned even redder, her innocent eyes now filled with confusion. The female lead sat up and shook her head, trying to dispel those wandering thoughts, reassuring herself, think about something else. Looking at her palm, she said excitedly, right, what exactly is this ability? If I remember correctly, in this world, the ability to heal is considered a blessing from the gods. And in the original story, Regina was never described as having this ability. That was natural since she was a supporting character who was killed at the beginning of the story. If this ability was truly bestowed by the gods, could it be that the gods sent me to this world? I need to investigate further. Thinking of this, she became frustrated. She fell back onto the bed and made a decision, I must go to the temple tomorrow. Then I'll be able to find a clue. It seemed that someone's kiss was so deep that even though she tried to ignore it and think about other things, it still came back to remind her that it had happened. She touched her lips. The feeling of his warmth still lingered on her lips, and she unconsciously immersed herself in it, blushing and smiling. As she recalled the moment their lips touched, she blushed again and punched the mattress in embarrassment, as if she were crazy. Why am I remembering it again? Oh, she was addicted but too embarrassed to admit it. Lying on the bed, she frowned and made up her mind, tomorrow, as soon as I open my eyes, I have to go out. I absolutely cannot face Asin again. The next afternoon, at the temple, the atmosphere was solemn and quiet. In the distance, a priest approached. He suddenly stopped and looked towards Regina, who was standing there. She was so engrossed in admiring the painting hanging in front of the temple entrance that she didn't notice the footsteps until the priest asked, Do you need any assistance? She then turned around to look. The priest introduced himself first. May you receive the blessings of Latin. I am Priest Lucy of this temple. She immediately greeted him back. I am Regina of the Loy Viscount family. This is my first time at the temple. Is it usually this quiet? Lucy explained, it's prayer time now, so everyone is in the prayer room. Hearing this, she smiled shyly and said, but is it all right for me to take up the priest's time like this? Suddenly, a voice echoed from afar, may I help you? Attracting the attention of both of them. She looked closely and exclaimed, it's him. The young man appeared with a gentle smile on his lips and clear green eyes. This was the person the female lead had met at the cafe a few days ago and accidentally bumped into in front of the restroom. She couldn't help but wonder why he appeared at this temple. He maintained his friendly smile as he walked towards her and greeted her. We meet again here, Miss Loy. It seemed like meeting her again was a small joy for him. After a brief introduction, he took on the responsibility of guiding Regina around the temple. The young man cheerfully asked her, is there anywhere else you particularly want to go? Since it was her first time, she didn't know where to go next and replied. No, nowhere at all. What she was more curious about was how he knew her name. He looked at her and made a suggestion, if so, let's go to the exhibition room first. There's a place dedicated to collecting paintings and treasures. Seeing his enthusiasm, she nodded in agreement, then suddenly thought, did he hear the conversation between me and the priest just now? Reflecting on his suggestion, she calculated in her mind, treasures? If they're treasures, I might be able to find some clues. After thinking it over, Regina turned to chat with him, do you come to the temple often? The young man said, do I look like that? Recalling the conversation between the young man and the priest, which seemed very close, and the priest's trust in entrusting him with the guidance, she said. Very much so, especially the priest's reaction. He laughed and replied, that's not the case. Surprisingly, she even thought he was a devout follower. The young man continued, I just have a few personal matters to investigate, so I came here. Looking at his melancholic expression, the female lead still had some doubts, wondering, investigate? Suddenly, he mentioned the painting outside the temple. He said, the mural you saw earlier depicts the mythology of the nation's founding. Hearing him say this, she found it quite interesting and listened attentively. He explained, the first emperor received the blessing of Latin and possessed the power of fire. She used fire to sweep away the evil things from this land, and purified this place with an incredibly powerful healing ability. Then she established the Duden Empire. That's the content of the mural. Regina was quite surprised by the birth of this empire, as even the original novel didn't mention this matter. She exclaimed, this is the first time I've heard of this. Seeing her lack of reaction, he scratched his head and chuckled awkwardly, it's an old story, isn't it? It's a story everyone knows. Not wanting him to feel embarrassed, she awkwardly denied, no, I find it very interesting. But may I ask, can the ability to heal be discovered after birth? He looked puzzled but still explained, no, I've never heard of such a case before. She gave a forced laugh and replied, I see. Inside, she was in a state of utter panic. Screaming, but why did this ability appear in me? Well, it's because she's the female lead, that's why she has it. Who else would have it? While her heart was screaming, her feet had followed him to the treasure exhibition. He announced, we're here. She only then regained her senses. The young man gestured, introducing the place to the female lead, this is the exhibition room of the Grand Temple of Renaxio. Her eyes sparkled at the chance to witness the rare treasures of this temple. He continued, it's a place where sacred artifacts from thousands of years ago are displayed and protected, so the historical value of these items is very high. As she listened to his explanation, she admired the ring made of sparkling gemstones in front of her. She turned and asked the young man, what is this? He said, this is the ring that Saint Tesla received when she swore to dedicate herself to God. Regina pointed to another sacred object and asked, and this? He didn't mind the trouble and happily answered, this is what Saint Chet used during baptisms. After a series of questions and answers, she had gained quite a bit of historical knowledge and praised him, it seems you've really done your research. Being complimented by such a beautiful girl. He smiled brightly and replied, there's a reason why I investigated so thoroughly. She widened her eyes at him, filled with curiosity, but since it was his personal matter, she didn't pry further. At this moment, he remembered that he hadn't yet introduced the most famous item. He immediately pointed towards it and said, I haven't shown you the most famous sacred object here yet. This is the scepter used by the founding emperor. The scepter was carefully displayed in a transparent case. Its body was predominantly a brilliant jade green, and the top was adorned with a sparkling diamond, making it look both majestic and elegant. She stared intently at the scepter as he recounted its history. There's a legend about purifying bad energy with this scepter. It's because the founding emperor used it to demonstrate their healing power. Looking at its timeless beauty, as if protected by some kind of energy, she couldn't help but admire. It's truly beautiful. It's adorned with so many gemstones. What if someone steals it? He replied, the holy knights protect this place, so that won't happen. Just then, a commotion outside interrupted their conversation. The young man said, it seems prayer time is over. They both went outside. It was already dusk. She walked ahead, thanking him for his guidance. Thank you very much. Thanks to you, I was able to look around like this. He politely replied, you're welcome. Although he volunteered to be her guide, she felt awkward not having anything to offer in return for his kindness and said, even so, is there any way I can repay you? He replied, if you say so. She turned, tilting her head, waiting for him to finish his sentence, but he seemed hesitant and only stammered, it's nothing. Regina looked out at the pitch-black sky and said, it's getting late. I must go home. He replied, yes. Then goodbye. She bowed in return, not forgetting to thank him again. Thank you very much. He replied, see you again. When she looked back, he had disappeared as if he had melted into the air. She muttered suspiciously, wondering, did I hear wrong? Come to think of it, I don't even know his name. Walking alone down the deserted corridor, she fell into her thoughts. Well, I won't see him again anyway, so it doesn't matter if I don't know his name. Let's forget about that. Now let's think about the information I learned today. Recalling the blessing of Latin bestowed upon the first emperor of the empire and her own healing ability, she thought, and no one is born with that ability without receiving Latin's blessing. So does that mean God made a mistake? It could be related to the original story and the fact that the plot is gradually changing. She looked up at the night sky, at the bright full moon, and sighed, this is troublesome. Returning to the mansion, the servants had been waiting outside for a long time, bowing as they greeted her. Welcome back. Mississippi dinner is ready in the dining room. Having been out all day and thinking too much, she looked tired and replied, thank you. Suddenly, she remembered something very important. A bolt of lightning struck out of the blue, and she thought, wait, if dinner is prepared in the dining room, won't I run into a scene? Remembering the passionate kiss from yesterday afternoon, she held her head and complained, no, I don't want to remember it anymore. I completely forgot about it all day today. The two maids next to her, seeing their miss holding her flushed face and looking distressed, were speechless. She quickly ran upstairs, wanting to return to her room as soon as possible, not forgetting to call back, I'll have dinner in my room today. The servants found her behavior strange, but still replied, yes, miss. Walking along the corridor back to her room, she still hadn't escaped the embarrassment and pondered, even though I can't go far, it's better to avoid him for now. Meanwhile, the maid went to the dining room and informed Asin, Miss has just returned. She also said she wants to have dinner in her room, Duke. Asin, he replied, is that so? He knew she was deliberately avoiding him, but he wasn't angry. He smiled gently and said, thank you for letting me know. You may leave. Hearing this, the maid bowed and replied, yes, then withdrew. Because of Regina's small, embarrassing action, everyone in the mansion misunderstood that our two main characters were quarreling. Behind the door, two maids were whispering. What's going on? Did they have a fight? I don't think so. He glanced at the door, sighed helplessly, and thought, I need to find a solution. In Regina's room, her plate was already quite empty. She wiped her mouth with a napkin, sighed, and muttered to herself, good thing I can eat in my room. Otherwise, I would definitely have indigestion. She was enjoying her private space, when suddenly someone knocked on the door, startling her. Asin's voice echoed from outside, I haven't seen your face all day, Regina. Hearing that it was him, her face turned gloomy, and she trembled uncontrollably. She looked like a rabbit about to be sacrificed to a tiger. Without her needing to open the door, he walked in as if it were his own room. She was lucky he was gentle. If it were me, I'd have punched him silly. He ignored Regina's unusual behavior and smiled gently, can you tell me what you've been doing all day? A bolt of lightning struck her ears. She felt like she was about to faint, wanting to pass out to end it all. One person was embarrassed and wanted to disappear into the ground, while the other laughed happily, watching the other's awkwardness. The atmosphere around them was truly bizarre. The male lead asked cheerfully, but with suppressed anger in his voice as he called her name, emphasizing each syllable, "If we keep avoiding each other like this all day, the servants will think strangely of us." Regi. Nah.